Let's go ahead and get started. It is 6 o'clock. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Clarkdale Town Council meeting on Tuesday, January 9th at 6 p.m. in the Clark Memorial Clubhouse, and Happy New Year's to all. Roll call, Vice Mayor Hunsetter. Here. Councilmember O'Neill. Here. Councilmember Babbitt Pierce. Present. Councilmember Jones. Here. And please note that Mayor Prudhomme Bauer is here. We have a quorum. Before we get started, I always like to read the Town of Clarkdale's vision. The Town of Clarkdale connects our unique history, proximity to the Verde River, and small town charm to a future with a vibrant economy. We cultivate an environment where residents and businesses can thrive, providing services and jobs for our residents and capitalizing upon tourism. We sustainably enhance our infrastructure, support the arts and education, and develop recreational opportunities to create a bright future for our entire community. Also, before we get started, I wanted to, into public comment, I would like to take a moment of silence, if we can, for the deaths of two longtime Clarkdale residents. One, the first one, of course, is Vincent Randall. Vincent Randall was Yavapai Apache elder, longtime Clarkdale resident, past tribal chairman, and a tribal council member for the Yavapai Apache Nation many years over. Actually, he started in 1962 when he was just 22 years old, which is really remarkable. He was the youngest council member ever elected by the Yavapai Apache Nation. He was also a teacher, a scholar, and the cultural director for the Yavapai Apache Nation. His stories, as we all know, were engaging, interesting, and always thoughtful. He'll always be, for all of us, a Clarkdale treasure. And our second one is Mike Westcott Sr. Mike and Roberta, the Westcott family, is well known in Clarkdale, longtime residents. We have, they are involved in education and even town government, and been around for a long time. He and Roberta have lived a wonderful life up on First North in Clarkdale. He was a manager of Verde Exploration, but he will be remembered as a wonderful father, husband, and a great neighbor to all in Upper Clarkdale. So with that, if we could have a moment of silence, please.
Council. Yeah.
Thank you all very much. Okay, let's move on with item 3, public comment. This is the time members of the public may give comment of a general nature. No official action may be taken by the council during this time unless it is to direct staff to look into a matter. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes. If you are watching online and would like to make public comment, please send a chat message in Zoom and the host will let you in for your comment. I have 4 people who want to comment already. I will, anybody, you don't always have to do a request to speak, but I'll take the first 4. And remember, you have 5 minutes. You'll come up to the microphone and state your name and if you're a Clarkdale resident or not. So the first one is Carla Hill. Welcome, Carla Hill.
I live in Cottonwood, Pine Shadows. And I just wanted to thank you guys. We spoke to you at your last meeting. We had a pretty big bunch of people come and talk to you. You heard us. We feel like you heard us. You're making actions. Laura has been amazing on this committee. So I just wanted to tell you guys, thank you. It's nice to see a functioning council.
Thank you, Carla.
Also done by a
The
citizen.
second one is Amy Stein. Amy?
Did that. The council was not involved at all in any of the scoring there.
Getting some feedback, Charity. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Amy.
My name is Amy Stein. I'm a Clarkdale resident now for 32 years. I respectfully request the appropriate agency within our town management to review and assess the traffic patterns, controls, and perhaps regulations between the Clarkdale-Jerome School District and at minimum, the intersections of 15th, 14th, and Sunset. And I'm hoping that's not my phone. I have personally endured and or witnessed more than a dozen near tragic misses at these three intersections in the last 6 months, the most recent being 3 o'clock this afternoon and myself. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Amy. Next one is here, Andrew Vertick.
Thank you. My name is Andrew Furchick. I live in Centerville. I am here to make a nuisance complaint. I have done the proper channels back in mid-October. I went to the police department and spoke with the young lady officer who's in charge of Centerville about a rooster that we have. And I know it's a little guy, but he makes an awful lot of noise. He starts at 4 o'clock in the morning. Nobody else is up at 4 o'clock in the morning but him. And so she said she would go take a look at it, and I did not hear anything from her. Then I actually told her where it was. It's either 921 or 941 Calle Medina. I cannot tell because the neighborhood and the backyards there are, you can't tell what's back there. So I don't know which house it particularly is. And when I mentioned it, she said, oh, yes, I know so-and-so. She mentioned the person's name, but I don't remember who that was. She suggested that she had encountered him before. Since I didn't hear from anyone back on November 22nd, I called and got a call back from Sergeant Goof, no, Hoof, Goof, yes. I wrote the wrong thing. And he said he wasn't going to do anything about it. And so I did a little investigating and found out that we have a town code 6.1.2, which is the nuisance code. And I called him back and I said, this says that you're supposed to at least do something if I make a complaint, and the chief of police is to direct someone, and he's got 3 days to do that. He said he would talk to the chief and get back with me. He never did. That was the end of November. I started calling mid-December. Did not get any answer. Then I left a message asking him for the sergeant to please call me. He never did. So now I'm asking you. I don't like to because I had chickens, but when I had chickens, they told me I couldn't have a rooster. Now I hear that you can have a rooster if it behaves. Well, this one is clearly not behaving.
I don't know how
So,
a rooster behaves.
I don't like to do this, but it has become, I'm just like, I'm kind of over it. So I hope that you can do something because I know that you are the bosses of the town. So I
Andrew,
appreciate you. Yes.
Andrew, I just want to make sure, I know you gave Charity a slip, but does it have your email and phone number on it?
Didn't ask for my email, it has my phone number and my address.
If you want, just, I'll
so
get
that I
this
can
back
get
to
back in
Charity
touch
and
with
put
you.
your email on it,
Yeah.
okay?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That would be great, and then we'll just give it to Charity and we will follow up with you. Okay. Are you through, Andy? Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next one, Mary Lou Rose. Mary Lou.
Hi. I live on Laughing Hill. I spoke online last month. My concern is
Uh,
with
Your name and,
Mary Lou Rose,
And where-
289 Laughing Hill. Yeah, I'm here because I have a concern for the health of the residents of Clarkdale due to the increase in touch and go flight operations from Embry-Riddle. Embry-Riddle uses leaded aviation gas. And as I sent an email to you guys before, and I know you got it, the EPA has determined that lead emissions from aircraft cause or contribute to air pollution. There is no known low level of lead that's healthy. Should be a concern for the children and all the residents in Clarkdale. Embry-Riddle, as you know, has increased their touch and go operations without any input from our community. It is nonstop, 4 or 5 in flight every day. They refuse to even listen to us. They're snarky when we make a complaint. I just think as a town, maybe the town of Clarkdale can push this along since the EPA has determined it is pollution. Also, any residents that are concerned, I made an online complaint to the EPA. They do have to respond to you. The woman from Phoenix called me yesterday and said I was the only one that made a complaint. Maybe as a town, we could make a complaint, but you should be concerned for the health and welfare of your constituents. It's leaded gas. It's 4 times the level of any leaded gas that was used in automobiles 30 years ago. It's at low level. You have the Verde River. What is it? What are they doing to the Verde River? The wildlife, the birds, everything. So I think as a town, I hope that we can move forward. I know there's an airport commission committee on noise pollution. My concern is the health aspect of using the leaded gas. That's entirely different from the noise pollution, which is annoying to say the least. So anyway, I thank you for your time. Thank you.
thank you, Mary Lou. Okay, does anybody else wish to speak? You can come on up to the microphone. You don't have to put a notice into our town clerk. Anybody else? This is your moment. I'm not seeing anybody coming forward. So anybody online wish to speak?
Nobody has indicated. so.
Okay, so with that, I will go ahead and close public comment and we'll move on to reports. The next item on the agenda are reports from, include current events, organizational reports, and monthly financial reports. On current reports, a brief summary of the activities of mayor, vice mayor, and council members are online as part of the agenda packets, and we all reviewed them, and we've all received them. With that, let's move on to item B, organizational reports, Cottonwood Area Transit,
No meeting.
Verde Valley Transportation Planning Organization,
No meeting.
Northern Arizona Council of Governments,
No meeting, but we have one next week, 2-day session down in Phoenix.
that like a planning session or?
Actually, it's a legislative session and a council meeting.
Gotcha. Transportation, Northern Arizona Municipal Water Users Association.
No meeting, meeting next week.
Transportation Policy Advisory Council.
We meet tomorrow, and I would like to thank outgoing staff member Mike Huff for all of his support of NACOG. He will be greatly missed.
And new person coming in? We don't know
Not
yet.
yet announced.
Okay. Verde Front Leadership Council, no report. I haven't seen the notes online either. So as soon as I get that, I'll pass that along to you. Greater Arizona Mayors Organization, no report. Sustaining Flows Committee, Laura.
We actually had a meeting yesterday. We had 2 work sessions this, earlier in the month or in late December on tribal adjudication and water rights and general water rights and what people need to do who have wells. And yesterday we had a meeting to talk about how we can do some education in the community so people have a better understanding
about what they need to do individually if they have a well, and if that well will be impacted by the adjudication of the Gila River adjudication, which is a statewide adjudication on water rights. They also did a specific thing, and we'll probably do some public education sessions on how tribal water rights will impact not only tribes, but communities and individuals, because, and in the Verde Valley, that's important to us because the Yavapai Apache Nation has senior water rights here in the Verde Valley, or on the Verde River. So that's an important part for particularly people with wells to understand. So hopefully, the NRCD Ed Center in Camp Verde has already started to do some educational pieces. Everybody is concerned because there's a very fine line between education and legal advice. So they're trying to make sure what they put out into the community is education and not legal advice. So we're hoping that in the coming months, we may be able to host something here in the community to let people know what it is that they need to do and make sure that they've got things in line for when this process happens. And it's an ever evolving process. It's been going on for, I don't know, 30 or 40 or 50 years. There's some hope that there's light at the end of the tunnel, but it is continuously an evolving process. So I'll keep people updated as best I can. And I did say that I thought we would probably be happy to host some kind of an educational session here. So.
Okay, great. That would be wonderful. Thank you. Yavapai Communities for Young Children.
No meeting.
No meeting. Can we go back to reports real quick? I just thought I would make an announcement with everybody in the room, or remind everybody that on Thursday at 5 p.m., we are having a water open house in the Clark, over in the auditorium, and I hope all of you will come. It will be a chance for everybody to ask questions and talk about water, wastewater, and where we're going for the future around that issue. So I hope everybody will come. It will be an open house where we'll have different stations that will talk about different information. So I just wanted to remind everybody, it was on my list and I just forgot to put it down. So I hope to see you all there. That's it for our reports. Let's move on to the consent agenda. We have 3 items on consent this evening. One is the approval of the minutes of the December 12th meeting. And we have 2 resolutions. The first resolution will be on making appointments to the Planning Commission. We had 2 openings, so we're making some appointments. And a resolution on making appointments to the Park and Recreation Commission. And I believe we had a couple openings on that, 1 opening on that one. So if there's any council members wish to pull any items for discussion.
Madam Mayor, you take a motion?
I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move that we approve consent agenda items A, B, and C as written.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Councilmember Babbitt Pierce to approve consent agenda items A through C as presented. Any question on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you. Let's move on to new business. We have a couple items on new business. The first one is the acceptance and approval of the annual audited financial statements. And I believe we have a representative from Colby Van Powell PLC that will present the topic. And I think our finance director, Julie Gallagher, will do the introductions. Welcome. Welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you. You all probably remember Scott Graff from many, many years doing audits for the town of Clarkdale. So we're happy he's coming back to do the presentation again. And I'm just going to give it right to him. We can get started.
Well, thank
Welcome,
you.
Scott.
Welcome
Thank you for
back.
the introduction. Thank you for having me, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. Seems like we were just here. The years go by so quick anymore.
Must be that time of year, right?
Yeah, it's so exciting. It's, you know, it's hard to wait for this time of year to have a I can see the audit presentation was on the agenda because you have a good turnout today. So we should have a few slides, and I think somebody else will probably go through those for me, or? Okay, wonderful. Again, my name is Scott Graff. I'm a partner of the CPA firm Colby and Powell. We're out of Gilbert, Arizona. This is probably my heaviest jacket. It's a little bit cooler here, but it's super enjoyable every time we're here. We love this area. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the audit and the audit results. This is for a audit period that ends June 30, 2023. And so when we look at everything included in the report that you have in your packet, this goes through that date, not through today. It does, it is important to note that because we're already in January, but anyway, just want to look at, hey, what's inside this? So there's over, what is there, 90 pages or so, you know, and I know you've read through every page, but
Yes.
what is inside this, right? And it can be quite a little bit confusing for a lot of people, but if we look at it, the important part is what you're actually getting is an independent auditor's report. And in addition to that, there's something behind that called a management discussion and analysis. And it is what it says it is. It's management's discussion of the financial statements. And it is what we believe it easier to read analysis of the overall financial results of the town. It also goes more into depth in kind of like what's happening economically with the town. It talks a little bit more about, you know, future events, expectations. It goes into budget and why things might be a little, some of the variances may be in budgeting. So it's a little bit more informative, but then after the management discussion analysis comes the financial statements. The town management is responsible for putting together financial statements to be audited, and that includes all the statements that you see in this audit report, which is a number of pages, including footnotes. So management's responsible to have that put together. Now, they do have an assist. We do help with putting together the financial statements for them. However, the accounting that are related, it's nothing more than a grouping to put it into a financial statement form. The audit is basically what we provide on those financial statements that are provided. We do sample selections, we do risk analysis. Where could the riskier areas be? We look at internal controls, policies, and procedures, and we do detailed testing on quite a few different items within the financial statements, the accounting. What does that independent auditor's report do? It gives you an opinion. And so the total audit comes down to that letter that you'll find in that report. And that letter says, what did we audit? We audited your financial statements. What was our opinion? Is the opinion, we call this an opinion letter. The opinion is that it's a clean opinion. It's actually the words that are used in the profession are unmodified, meaning that there's no modifications necessary. It's the highest level of opinion that you can acquire. And you've had multiple years, many years, you haven't heard anything different. And that's because the town in audit terms, it has a good control environment, meaning that you follow through with policy, you keep a good internal control system. When there are recommendations for improvement, last year we had 2 recommendations for improvement. Both recommendations were followed up on. This year, those 2 recommendations are not needed anymore. So they're no longer findings. That's a good controlled environment. And so because of those things, you can have a good unmodified opinion. All right, so let's go to the next slide. You had multiple federal expenditures. This is a listing in the report that I took it out of the report showing that you expended $817,000 of federal monies. This doesn't include state monies. This is federal only. Why do I bring this up? Is because when you expend more than $750,000, you're required to have what we call a single audit. We performed a single audit. It just basically means that we tested the compliance requirements over a major program. In this case, the major program was related to the coronavirus state and local recovery funds. Typically, the programs that are selected are the bigger programs. In this case, that was the program. So this is pretty common among cities and towns because the funding for this area was quite large for cities and towns in that fiscal year. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Going back to the single audit, there were no findings or findings related to compliance. Everything turned out good with that too. This is I included in your packet a letter to governance. It does have a finding or recommendation as well. This is something that we were surprised by, actually. The accounting system at the town is called Encode. It's a good accounting system. It records the utility accounts receivables and does other things as well, but it doesn't print a date sensitive report for accounts receivables for customer balances. You can print a report on the day that you're sitting at the computer and you can print that date. But one of the flaws it has is that you can't, you know, if you didn't print it on June 30, which is your year-end report, you can't print it after the fact. So if you're July 15th and you're like, oh, let's print that report, it doesn't have that capability. That's a typical capability of accounting software. I have seen other softwares that don't do that, and it's really frustrating for auditors because we want to be able to see those reports. We are able to go through other means which are more difficult for us to be able to acquire the information that we need to be able to satisfy ourselves with account balances. However, it is something that we recommend that the town, if they're going to continue using, which I see no problem in still using Encode, is it needs the accounting staff need to print those reports on June 30th and remember to do that on June 30th. So no vacation time on June 30th. So print those reports. That way it's provided for historical data. Not only that is we do recommend printing that every single month at month end. Just doing a check on those reports to determine that those balances are carried forward correctly in the general ledger system. Those should always match. We did not find anything that was a problem with that other than that the difficulty of the reporting. Apparently in the years past, it just happened that that report was printed on June 30. Otherwise, we would have brought this up before, but this last year made it a little bit difficult. All right, let's move on. Okay. Kind of concludes the audit report, but I did put together a few slides that relate to financial data. The management discussion analysis also has some of these type of charts, except for this one goes back 5 years. The others just usually are annual comparison. This is the general fund alone, and it just kind of gives you additional data, I guess you would say, that I thought might be helpful to look at. In a business, this would be like an income statement, profit and loss. Are we making money? And we don't use the word making money, but yeah, is the general fund exceeding its own expenses for each given year? The yellow line would tell you the increase by year, and the green line is the cumulative. So you can see that basically starting in COVID years, we don't like to say anything good about COVID. Financially, COVID has increased fund balances for cities and towns. It's been financially increasing those balances, and you can see how that's affected the town over the years since COVID. But it created what is a fund balance in general fund at 7.5 million, where in 2019 it was starting at 2 million. And we could go to the next slide.
Can we ask a
Yeah,
question?
absolutely.
Thank you. So are you saying that we have $7.5 million to spend?
No, actually, no. Let's go back. Can we go back one? Okay, fund balance doesn't mean cash. Fund balance is in this case, in the general fund, it does have somewhat, as that increases, it does typically have a correlation to that. But fund balance includes all your certain assets minus your liabilities that you owe. And it does have a degree of spendability. Yes, you're right, but it does not represent cash. I'll go to a different statement in the financial statements that we could look at, because some of that fund balance is committed already to other purposes. So it can't be just, oh, that's available for anything you want, because some of that's already committed to other type of things, whether it's been committed by council, or whether it's been committed by a restricted outside source. So yes, it is something that can be spent, but what can it be spent on is determined by what we're going to look at a little bit later. We'll look at utility funds, and then we'll talk about restrictions. Okay, let's go to, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Did anybody else have a question before we move on?
Excellent.
Yes.
Going back to Encode, is that it's my understanding that's a commonly used accounting program among cities and towns, correct?
It is commonly used.
Right, so, the fact that we are operating with a flawed system, that's probably common around the state with other cities and towns.
It is. It is.
So
And
that's
if
just that
everybody could Get a
procedural.
hold of Encode and let them know how messed up that is.
Okay. And it's also, being an accounting system, it's probably very expensive to even consider going about changing
Right,
it.
there's a number of other accounting systems that are also used. Encode is one of those. They're all equally expensive. And when you look at, we're talking about one type of thing, you'd have to, determine what are the benefits of one compared to the benefits of the other. Which one do you like the most? Price will come down to it as well, but
So it's probably better in the long run just to have a procedural change.
right.
Thank you.
All right, this is utility funds. Now you'll notice we don't have a comparison on this schedule of all the different utility funds, because there's more than one. This is the total of all utility funds combined. Some utility funds have better fund position than other utility funds. But in total, this just kind of tells you how they're performing as a whole. And you can also see that it has a net change in net position. The yellow line shows the current net increases. And then the green is the fund position end of the year. Going back to, is that spendable? Well, in this case, the 13,965,000. And I've looked at the utility funds. There's about 9 million of that 13 million represent infrastructure items like the treatment plants, water plants, water lines. It also includes restricted monies that are required to be spent for restricted purposes. All of that, by the way, is found in your financial statement footnotes. And it's towards the back. I actually marked it. It's on page 61, 62. It goes, you see the term fund position and then also fund balance. There's a schedule on page 62 that will show you exactly what portion of that balance is already called for through either assignment by the council or by a restriction by an outside source,
Like a grant restriction.
like a grant restriction. And I didn't put up the highway user revenue fund, but all that has to be used for streets. Grants have to be used for grant required purposes. So there's certain things also in the utility funds that when you collect it through a billing, water adjudication, things like that, is when you collect it like that, it has to be spent for that purpose. So those are the restrictions, and they're all identified in this footnote on page 62.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Other questions for Scott?
That might have been my last slide. Is there any more slides? Okay.
That's questions.
My favorite chart for understanding what's really available versus restricted, and I think I've shared this with most of you, but on slide 26 and slide 30, it really breaks it out by not only the fund, but, you know, even more detail. So if that's a question you're interested in, and I would recommend looking at those slides too, 26 and or pages 26 and 30 from the report, not from your agenda page numbering. The report. Yeah.
Overall, Mark,
Excuse me?
overall, say to the rest of the audience. and
Yes,
us,
absolutely. You know,
where we stand.
let me just explain real quick, audit wise, there were less journal entries required this year. I believe your finance director was pretty new last year, and you know, it doesn't matter how good you are when you come into a new place, you got to learn all the things. So we went through the audit and we're able to, last year was a little bit more difficult because it just was new, but the finance staff really took everything and just ran with it and excelled, in my opinion. The two findings that we had last year were resolved. There's less journal entries required, meaning that they were doing more of the fixes before we got here. So I'm impressed with the improvement. I think you're in good hands. Financially, you could look at the numbers and I could say, we could look, I could tell you that the town is improving. It's not deteriorating. You're looking at your numbers, but you know that you have commitments that you got to make too. So I don't know exactly what those are. You know what those are. What money do you need going forward to cover capital improvements? But financially, you're in a good place. You're improving, not deteriorating. And the accounting staff is doing a really good job. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. And thank you, George.
Thank you.
And thank you to Julie and her staff, because they worked very hard to make sure everything was in alignment and to correct the 2 items last year. And as you noted, the 1 item noted this year is more procedural. So it's really not what we do, you know, anything that's other than a procedure of making sure we run it on June 30th.
Right. As soon as that came to their knowledge, that should not be a finding next year. It's just, it was unknown at the time. You find those things out as you go.
My birthday, so I'll remind them.
Okay, thank you. But I just want to say, between our town manager and our finance director, we know our finance position well every month. We know where we're spending our money. So none of this was a surprise to us. And yes, I did read it all. I'm just happy that we're in such a good position, because it allows us to tackle some of the big challenges that we have and have identified, and with some funding sources that are pretty darn good, whether it's in-house or grants. And I think we have a good course of action, and I thank you, because it's nice to hear we're in a good, solid position.
Well, thank you.
Anything else from council members?
You have a motion that we need to approve?
Yes, if there's any other questions.
The only thing that I was gonna say is, kudos to Julie and her team, but also for the community to have faith in how the town is being managed, that this is a really dense document, and you might nap a little while you're reading it, but it is our financial findings, and I think it is important for people to have, for the community to have a sense of how we are managing it, and it's great to hear you say it, and it's great to acknowledge Julie and her team because of all the great work they do. But it is, I think, important for also people to really read it and understand it as best they can. So
Right.
I would encourage, if you haven't read it before the meeting, it's in the document, so.
Right.
Yeah, it is on the
It's in our
website.
link
Yeah.
packet online, so absolutely. Absolutely. If there's no other questions, first of all, Scott, thank you. It's always good to see you. And we look forward to having no findings next year. How's that?
That's a challenge.
Our team can do it. I know this team. So I appreciate it. And with that, I'll take a motion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the annual audited financial statements and annual expenditure limits report as presented by Colby and Powell PLC.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Council Member O'Neill to approve the annual audit financial statements and annual expenditure limitations report as presented by Colby and Powell PLC. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carried. Thank you so much, Scott. Take care, travel safely. Okay, let's move on to item 6B is disposal of surplus property. And I believe Town Manager Guthrie and Town Clerk Charity Brooks are going to speak to this topic. We have a few items for disposal. Okay.
All right, Madam Mayor and council members, we're bringing this item before you. We brought it back in February. We brought some items whenever the town has some surplus inventory or property. We bring it before you to approve to either put it into our auction, or if we don't receive any bids on it at all, it'll be disposed of entirely. So you do have a list of items within the council packet, and then there was also another list that was placed before you this evening in which we added the very last line item. So we did add the Cisco 3560E gigabit switches today. So those are new to the list. And then disposal of surplus property will be made in the most economical and practical manner available.
So
Most
there's,
of these items will go on auction.
most of them will go
Yeah,
on
we
auction.
always start with auction and see, and if they don't sell, then we have to figure something else out, but we'll try with the auction with all of the items.
And how do people find out about the auction?
So we'll put a link on Facebook and we'll put it in the e-newsletter. So if you're not receiving the e-newsletter, contact us and we'll add you to the list so that you're getting that directly, but we also post it on our social media channels. So, but it's a good, you know, other cities have stuff on there too, so it's a really nice thing to kind of peruse. But we've already, in the last round, sold some vehicles that were just sitting out, and then we were paying insurance on them. So that's why we try to move things that aren't being used, because they take up room, they don't look good, you know, when they're outside, and they were paying insurance on those items. So we're trying to clear things out and make room.
Any idea when the auction will start and what's the duration?
It depends upon the item. I think this last one was 10 days. I think
Yeah, it was about 10 to 12 days on the last auction.
that. And I mean, I think he can control that too,
Mhm.
but generally we don't leave them up really long because we're trying to expedite getting things out. Laura, you bid last time, right, on an item?
Bid on the manhole cover and somebody outbid me.
I'm looking at the wooden stakes here. That'd be interesting.
The item that I am concerned that I don't want to go to auction, which is
The
on this list,
painting.
which is the artwork. So I don't know, do we approve this or that, or does it, going to surplus doesn't mean we necessarily auction it? I just
Right,
want to make sure
exactly.
that we're not committing to auctioning these things, and if we are, then can we take that one thing off?
Yeah, definitely. And I had sent because Laura's an artist. I'd asked her opinion of this particular painting. And we're researching it just to make sure it's not something historically we should keep or that, you know, should be marketed in a different manner. So we're still researching it. My thought was just to go ahead and leave it on the list so that if we find that we don't want to retain it or we want to get rid of it in another way, because this authorizes us to dispose of it in a myriad of manner. Just our chosen manner is auction because it's cleanest and clearest. But we also can donate to nonprofits and things like that. So
And,
that-
but if we decide we don't want to,
We can
we want
keep
to
it.
keep it,
we can keep
we're
it.
not obligated now to.
It's just authorizing me to do that. And the last time we were together, you authorized me to do it, you know, routinely. But, and we have that same language in this item, but I like to periodically bring you the list so that you can see, you know, what's going on.
When I saw artwork, I also looked up the artist and I determined that it was really nothing relevant to the town at all. So I don't know where it came from or how, is it even a print or is it original?
I think it was in the storage room upstairs that got cleaned out to make an office for somebody and
There's probably somebody's artwork on their wall that they brought.
yeah, who
themselves.
knows? We have no idea, but we just want to make sure before we get rid of it and we'll work through that.
So if you haven't seen, let me tell you a few items on the list you might want to bid for. We have a Cisco phone, lot one, that's just one phone. Bicycles, we have 24 bikes. They are from PD. We have a refrigerator, we have a freezer, we have a shredding machines, two, it looks like. We have another Cisco phone. We have a Valve exerciser, okay. New Year's decoration and party favors. Office Jet Pro printer, premium Shepherd's hooks. Those are for like mason
Eaters.
jars, flower baskets, things like that. Sony sound system with speakers, lots of wooden stakes. That's an interesting one. We have a gray cooler, a blue cooler, and a Coleman extra large cooler. And then the artwork that Councilmember Jones talked about. And then we have a Cisco 3560E gigabyte switches. There's 24 of them or something like that. 10 of them, excuse me. And conditions unknown. So that's what's in the current auction, just to tell everybody. So if you're interested, you're welcome to bid for them. And with that, if there's not any other questions or comments, I'll take a motion on this.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the disposal of surplus property per Town Code Section 3-3-11 and authorize town manager to dispose of future surplus inventory with a value of less than $75.
There's a second to that motion.
I'll second.
Hey, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Councilmember Jones to approve the disposal of surplus property per Town Code 3-3-11 and authorize the town manager to dispose of future surplus inventory with a value of less than $75,000. Any comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carried. Okay, now that we've done surplus property, item 6C is resolution 1706, abandonment of town of Clarkdale right-of-way. And then-
1707.
1707.
Yeah, 1707, excuse me, 06, I was thinking of the other one back there. 1707, sorry about that. Assistant Town Manager Ruth Mayday is going to speak to this. Ruth?
So along the excess property theme of this evening's proceedings, this is a very small, this is the abandonment, this is the APN, it's down in the industrial park. This was originally cut out of a property way back in the smelter days. and has not been used since. So can we go to the next slide? You can see that there's this very tiny, almost street width section of right of way that is splitting the two parcels owned by Verde Industrial Park in half. So in order for them to do any work to improve their site, every time they want to do something, they have to come to us and get, if it involves that strip of land, they have to get a permit to do work in the public right of way. Which really doesn't make any sense because there's this, it's the street to nowhere. It does not connect to anything. It just connects to two sections of private property. There's no utilities in it. We don't have sewer lines. We don't have water lines. We'll never be using this for a street. So there's really no reason for the town to be owning it. Jesse Pfeiffer from Verde Industrial Park has been coming to the town over the last, I think, 2 or 3 years since she acquired the property and talking with us about some different ideas. And we discussed with her the possibility of abandoning this. She really liked the idea. Like I said, we did a copious research, could not figure. The only thing we could find was way back in the day, there were 2 additional pieces of right of way that have since been abandoned. And there's really no reason for the town to retain this. I'm the first one that will tell you once we get property, we should never give it up, almost never. This is one of the rare occasions that I would say it was worth the town abandoning this right of way to the property owner. Arizona revised statutes, Title IX governs cities and towns, Section 402 talks about abandonment of town rights of way. When we do that, we essentially draw a line down the middle of the property and it's abandoned to the adjacent property owners on each side. In this case, they're both the Verde Industrial Park, so they would be getting the strip of land. There's no value to it. It's not buildable. It's not usable for any other purpose. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has. The applicant is here if you have any questions of her.
Any questions on this?
Does anybody know how big of a piece of property it is?
It's 0.13 acres. It's about 5,000 square feet. It's 25 feet wide and I think about 225 feet long.
Which would be for a road
Right,
walkway.
it's typical road width, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Anything else on this question?
So it's actually just, it's deeded to the landowner, correct? And we just have right of way.
That's what you should have in your packet. You will have the resolution that abandons the property. Then you have the declaration of abandonment. Right, and then there's a legal description that goes along with that gives the actual legal description. And then because a picture's worth 1,000 words, I always require them to add an exhibit drawing so that everybody can tell what it is we're talking about.
Sounds like a common sense move and pretty straightforward to me.
It allows a property owner to connect 2 pieces of their property.
Right.
Straightforward. And council members have any other questions? Any comments? Yeah.
Since the property owner is here, can we ask what the plan is?
Come on forward and just state your name and if you're a Clarkdale resident, just.
My name is Jessie Pfeiffer and I own all of those 3 parcels. And we're currently using the little original jailhouse as a resident and the right of way is out our back door. What we found and what we think was they were using that as a public access to use that jailhouse. So there was a road here, here, and here. These 2 have been abandoned. So we're just trying to get the 3rd piece of that puzzle removed. And just, we've got dogs. So if somebody gets bit by my dog on my property, which is outside my door, just so there's nothing sticky or messy in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's interesting piece of history about the property.
Yeah, it was for. Probably to bring prisoners to jail.
Yeah, probably, absolutely. Thank you, Jesse. Any other questions?
Take a motion?
I will definitely take a motion.
Okay, I move that we approve resolution 1707, authorizing the abandonment of the town of Clarkdale right-of-way and convey the right-of-way to Verde Industrial Park LLC without receiving payment, and authorize the town attorney, town manager, and town clerk to execute all documents.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Councilmember O'Neill to approve Resolution 1707, authorizing the abandonment of the town of Clarkdale right-of-way and convey the right-of-way to Verde Industrial Park LLC without receiving payment, and authorize the town attorney, town manager, and town clerk to execute all documents. Understand the motion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried on that item. So that's all of our new business tonight. Let's move on to future agenda items. I believe Charity put out sort of a list of what's upcoming. It looks like the next meeting in January is going to be pretty hefty at 7 o'clock. We'll have a discussion of water rate. At 3 o'clock, excuse me, 3 p.m. Is the next meeting on January 23rd is our, not 6 p.m. like it's on here. Water rate increase and the resolution on that. Policies and procedures, trails master plan, which is great, and Broadway road improvements phase 1 and 2. So we have a fairly hefty agenda for our next meeting. Anything else for the agenda, future agenda items you want to add? Okay, I'm not seeing anything, so we'll just move on to adjournment. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There a second? Second. Okay, there's a motion by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Councilmember O'Neill to adjourn the meeting at 6:57 p.m. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carried. We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming this evening.
Thank you.